A shockwave from America, how Trump and Musk are rattling Europe. 2025 opened with two seismic tremors, one economic, the other geopolitical, originating from the United States and reverberating across Europe. In January alone, Tesla, once the darling of Europe's green revolution, reported a jaw-dropping 45% drop in sales across the continent. At the same time, Donald Trump reignited global controversy by declaring that Greenland should be considered a matter of urgent national security interest for the United States. At first glance, these stories seem unrelated. A tech giant in crisis and a populist political figure reviving an old territorial ambition. But to European leaders, they signal something more profound, a disruptive American influence threatening Europe's economic and political stability. And this time, Europe isn't simply reacting, it's mobilizing. From diplomatic rebukes to regulatory crackdowns and economic divestment, the continent is pushing back hard, aiming to defend not just its markets, but its values. This report is brought to you by Eagle Discovery.
We need Greenland for national security.
Trump and Greenland, geopolitical power move or dangerous gamble. On March 13th, 2025, during a tense joint press conference with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels, Donald Trump stunned allies by reviving one of his most controversial ideas from his first term, acquiring Greenland. "We need it, and it will happen," Trump has said, waving off questions about Denmark's sovereignty and international law. Denmark's response was immediate and unequivocal. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen responded in unusually blunt terms. Greenland is not for sale. It is part of Denmark, and that's final. Greenland's premier, Knut Borup Eged, reinforced the message, asserting Greenland's right to self-determination and warning that any attempt to pressure the island would be met with diplomatic resistance. The European Union and NATO leadership quickly rallied behind Denmark. In a rare unified statement, they affirmed that European territory is non-negotiable. Even traditionally neutral states like Sweden and Austria voiced solidarity, framing Trump's remarks as both an affront to international norms and a potential security threat. Analysts across Europe viewed the move as part of a broader American strategy to assert dominance in the Arctic, where Russia and China also have growing ambitions. Whether calculated diplomacy or reckless provocation, Trump's Greenland gambit has thrown a geopolitical spotlight on the Arctic and triggered the most serious transatlantic rift since his first presidency. Tesla's crisis in Europe, from innovation icon to trust deficit. As Trump inflamed Europe politically, Elon Musk's Tesla was experiencing an unprecedented commercial meltdown. The crisis began not with technical failures, but with labor tensions in Scandinavia. In late 2023, Tesla refused to sign a collective bargaining agreement with Swedish trade unions, an act seen as a direct challenge to Nordic labor models, which emphasize worker rights and social consensus. The backlash was swift. Swedish mechanics walked off the job. Dock workers in Denmark, Norway, and Finland soon joined in solidarity, refusing to unload Tesla vehicles or parts. Postal unions blocked deliveries. The protest quickly escalated into a coordinated labor blockade of Tesla's operations in Northern Europe. By early 2025, service centers across the region had ground to a halt. Tesla shipments were stranded in ports, and customers faced months-long delays for repairs. The final blow came when Denmark's two largest pension funds, Academic Pension and Pension Danmark, announced full divestment from Tesla, citing violations of labor ethics and corporate governance standards. With unions gaining public sympathy and political backing, Tesla's Northern European footprint effectively collapsed in a matter of weeks. Sales collapse. Can Tesla recover? According to the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, ACEA, Tesla's January 2025 sales dropped by an astonishing 45% year-over-year. This dramatic fall came on the heels of a weak 2024, when the company already reported an 11% decline, 8 times the rate of the broader EV industry slowdown. But the real crisis isn't just numerical, it's reputational. In a recent YouGov survey of UK consumers, 59% of potential EV buyers stated they would never consider purchasing a Tesla, with the most cited reason being Elon Musk himself. In Germany and France, two of Tesla's largest markets, the damage is even more pronounced. Once a leader in electric mobility, Tesla is now losing ground to legacy automakers like Volkswagen and Renault, both of which have ramped up their EV offerings. Compounding the problem is the rise of Chinese EV brands like BYD and NIO, which are gaining market share rapidly by offering quality alternatives at competitive prices. In this increasingly crowded field, Tesla's brand is becoming more a liability than a selling point. Elon Musk, from tech icon to brand liability. Elon Musk once epitomized innovation, disruption, and a green tech future. In Europe, he was celebrated not just as a CEO, but as a cultural figure, someone who made climate progress cool. But that reputation has unraveled dramatically. Musk's increasingly erratic public behavior and controversial political endorsements have alienated large swaths of European consumers. He has praised far-right German party AfD, known for its anti-immigration and climate-skeptic stances. He has criticized the UK government for lacking vision while openly admiring Italy's nationalist Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. His dismissal of EU climate policies as bureaucratic overreach and barriers to innovation has further fueled the perception that Musk is no longer aligned with European values. A former EU energy commissioner summed it up starkly. Musk used to be a hero of the energy transition. Now he's seen as a political actor, one increasingly hostile to European norms. German consumers turn their backs, 94%. Say no to Tesla. Germany, once Tesla's most promising European market, has turned decisively against the brand. In the first 2 months of 2025, Tesla's German sales plummeted by 76%, even as the overall EV market grew by more than 30%, driven by surging demand for domestically produced electric cars. A poll conducted by Der Spiegel revealed that 94% of German respondents had no interest in purchasing a Tesla. Not only is the company seen as foreign and out of touch, but it's now actively viewed as antagonistic to Germany's social and industrial culture. Among younger consumers, once Tesla's core demographic, preferences are shifting toward brands with strong ESG commitments and localized production chains. In Berlin and Munich, two cities that once boasted record Model 3 sales, Tesla showrooms now sit eerily quiet while VW ID.4S and BMW iX models fly off lots. For a brand that once symbolized the future, this is a dramatic fall from grace. A crisis of trust, the true cost of cultural misalignment. Tesla's collapse in Europe is about more than just labor disputes or celebrity missteps. It reflects a profound cultural misalignment. In Europe, companies are expected to engage responsibly with society, to respect labor rights, environmental goals, and institutional norms. Tesla, under Musk's increasingly autocratic leadership, appears to be rejecting those expectations. The result is a full-blown crisis of trust. Consumers are walking away, regulators are scrutinizing operations. Major institutional investors, especially in the Nordic region, are pulling billions in funds over ESG violations. The company's reputation as an ethical innovator has been replaced by a narrative of arrogance and disregard. In a continent where trust is currency, Tesla's brand has become toxic. And unless it makes radical changes, not just in products, but in leadership, values, and strategy, the damage may be irreversible. Clashing with European labor culture. Tesla's refusal to sign collective bargaining agreements in Sweden did more than provoke a strike. It ignited a cultural clash between American corporate individualism and the European social contract. In the Nordic model, labor unions are not fringe activists. They are central, respected institutions embedded in both the economy and political system. Worker protections, transparent negotiations, and collective agreements are seen as non-negotiable foundations of a just society. Tesla's hardline anti-union stance, refusing to even sit at the table, was interpreted as contempt, not just for unions, but for the social values they represent. The response was immediate and coordinated. Sympathy strikes across ports, logistics hubs, and service centers paralyzed Tesla's supply chain. The blockade was not just a protest, it was a cultural defense. European leaders and labor organizations saw Tesla's actions as symbolic of a wider threat: the erosion of worker rights by unaccountable tech giants. In contrast to the American model where corporate efficiency often trumps worker representation, Europe's expectation is balance. Tesla's failure to understand this has turned a business dispute into a moral showdown, and the company is losing both the economic battle and the cultural argument. From future icon to cultural outcast. For much of the 2010s and early 2020s, Tesla wasn't just a car company, it was a symbol. It stood for innovation, climate action, and the promise of a sleek, electric future. Elon Musk himself was hailed as a messianic figure disrupting industries and inspiring a new generation of tech leaders. But that halo has dimmed. Today, for many Europeans, Tesla represents something darker. A brand untethered from accountability, a CEO more interested in stirring controversy than solving problems. Musk's endless stream of provocative tweets, political endorsements, and off-the-cuff declarations have exhausted consumers and unnerved investors. In a media environment already oversaturated with outrage and division, Musk's antics no longer feel iconoclastic. They feel irresponsible. In Europe, where leadership is often measured in restraint, dialogue, and social responsibility, Musk's approach feels jarringly foreign. The company that once symbolized the future now symbolizes friction between Silicon Valley egotism and European values of humility, community, and stability. Tesla isn't just out of alignment with local markets, it's becoming a cultural outcast. A growing transatlantic rift? As Elon Musk's reputation erodes in Europe, Donald Trump is once again testing the strength of the Transatlantic alliance. In early 2025, he issued an ultimatum to NATO: either European members meet their full spending commitments or face a potential U.S. withdrawal. It's not the first time Trump has threatened the alliance, but this time the stakes are higher. With Russian aggression simmering in Eastern Europe and Arctic tensions rising, Trump's posture is seen as dangerously destabilizing. In a move that raised even more eyebrows, Trump named Elon Musk as a special advisor to oversee federal workforce efficiency measures, which insiders say include mass layoffs at the Departments of Veterans Affairs, Transportation, and even Social Security. For Europeans, already wary of Musk's values and leadership style, this appointment confirmed fears that U.S. domestic policy was veering further from their own social democratic ideals. Meanwhile, Trump signed a proclamation honoring Women's History Month just weeks after renewed scrutiny over his history of sexual misconduct allegations. The dissonance was not lost on European commentators. A man repeatedly accused of predatory behavior using feminist symbolism was seen as an act of cynical political theater, further widening the moral divide between Washington and Brussels. The result is a growing perception that the U.S., under Trump and with figures like Musk at the helm, is no longer just an unpredictable partner, but a potential source of global instability. Trump versus Hollywood, a culture war that won't end. Donald Trump's long-standing feud with Hollywood is more than a personality clash. It's a cultural war. Since the earliest days of his presidency, Trump has targeted actors, directors, and musicians who have criticized him, turning award shows into battlegrounds of identity and ideology. One of the defining moments came in 2017, when Meryl Streep used her Golden Globes acceptance speech to condemn Trump's mocking of a disabled reporter. Her words, "Disrespect invites disrespect, violence incites violence," struck a nerve. Trump fired back, calling her one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, further inflaming tensions. Far from quieting the opposition, Trump's attacks energized a wave of celebrity activism. Hollywood figures, many of whom wield massive influence on social media, began framing their work and appearances as resistance. The culture war deepened, with entertainment becoming an arena for moral confrontation, one in which Trump, far from withdrawing, seems to thrive. To many Europeans, this dynamic feels both foreign and deeply troubling. The politicization of art, the personalization of power, and the public shaming of dissent are reminiscent of populist movements they've seen rise closer to home. What began as a spat between a president and an actress has evolved into a microcosm of democratic decay, where disagreement is no longer part of debate, but a trigger for derision. Melania Trump, strategic silence or detached First Lady? Melania Trump has always been an enigma. During her husband's presidency, she played a visibly subdued role, delaying her move to the White House, rarely giving interviews, and frequently absent from political functions. Her silence became a topic of speculation. Was it calculated, coerced, or simply apathy? Then came the jacket. In June 2018, while visiting a Texas detention center housing migrant children, Melania wore a military green coat with the words, "I really don't care, do you?" printed on the back. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Critics saw it as a callous gesture amid a humanitarian crisis. The White House claimed it was just a jacket, but the symbolism stuck. Even her signature initiative, Be Best, a campaign aimed at combating cyberbullying, was undermined by her husband's own online attacks. The contradiction was so glaring that it bordered on satire. While Melania urged children to be kind online, Trump continued to berate critics on social media with insults and conspiracy theories. Now, as Trump reemerges on the political stage, Melania remains largely out of view. For some, her silence is strategic detachment. For others, it signals a deeper discomfort. In a political era defined by spectacle and outrage, her distance is both conspicuous and revealing. Whether she is an unwilling participant or a complicit observer remains one of the enduring mysteries of the Trump era. U.S.-Mexico trade showdown, a new flashpoint emerges. In March 2025, Donald Trump reignited tensions with Mexico by threatening sweeping new tariffs on imports, citing unfair trade and national security concerns. The move immediately rattled U.S. industries, particularly automakers like Ford and GM, which rely heavily on Mexican factories for parts and assembly. Nearly half of components in U.S.-built vehicles originate in Mexico. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responded firmly, warning that Mexico would retaliate if the tariffs move forward. "We don't want a trade war," she said, "but we won't let the U.S. harm our economy without consequence." She signaled potential levies on critical U.S. agricultural exports, including corn, soybeans, and beef, threatening politically sensitive sectors in key U.S. states. With over $860 billion in annual trade, the U.S.-Mexico economic relationship is among the world's most integrated. A tariff war could disrupt industries, raise consumer prices, and undermine the USMCA trade pact. Analysts view the move as part of Trump's broader strategy to reassert U.S. dominance and energize his base. But for both nations, the stakes are high, and escalating rhetoric risks real economic damage on both sides of the border. Is Donald Trump executing a brilliant political master plan or sowing the seeds of global instability? Is Elon Musk redefining corporate leadership or dragging Tesla into an irreversible crisis? Europe's pushback is real. Tesla's collapse is accelerating, and the rift between the United States and its longtime allies is deepening. The real question isn't just how Tesla or Trump will fare, but whether the U.S. can avoid a full-blown transatlantic rupture. Stay tuned. The biggest twists may still be ahead. Follow me for more updates.